When it comes to marrying well, you cannot underestimate the power of intentionality. I like to say, if you want to marry, say it to your chest. And by that, I really just mean there's no point being coy about your desire for marriage. It's a good thing. When we want to get the money, secure the bag, get the degree, we know what we do. You apply to schools, you study hard, you get in, you go to work, you apply to jobs. If you're not getting work, if you don't like what you're currently working as, you apply to another job. We put in all this effort. But when it comes to relationships, we're kind of like, if it happens, it happens. There's a difference between, planning to marry and hoping. So that's how we're going to get into this discussion about intentionality today. This is one part of the series on, a girl's guide to marrying well, and there's so much to cover in it. So let's just get right into it. It's going to be hard for you to tell between when I'm reading and when I'm just sharing my words, but if you're watching on video, you can see my head turning when I'm reading and me facing the camera when I am talking to you from my heart. But most of it is just going to have my own thoughts meddled in between, so enjoy. All right, so the first thing under intentionality is live like you're planning to marry. And I don't really mean that in a way that is like, avoid all your life plans and just like wait for marriage. No, it's more like go beyond just hoping for it and do something, like have it as your plans. The way you have goals for everything else, have this as one of them and take steps towards making it happen. I'm going to read and then at some point I'm going to interject as well. Are you planning to marry or are you just hoping to? Hope is good. It's what keeps you going when you're weary. And then you puts the verse, Isaiah chapter 40, 30-31, which talks about how, they that wait on the Lord, their strength shall be renewed. Essentially, there's a reason why there's hope. When you have hope, it gives you strength to keep going. So it's good to hope, but it's not enough, right? It's what sustains you when marriage seems out of reach, but hope alone isn't enough. You also need to live like you're planning to marry. Does that mean loading up your planner with strategies and to-do items for getting married by Christmas? Yes. And a whole lot more. Okay, not really. Planning in this case means intending, doing things that are consistent with what you expect to happen and avoiding things that aren't. Did you get that? When it comes to getting married, being intentional looks a lot like basic Christian discipleship. So it's really just saying there's a way to live your life when you're planning for something to happen, and there's a way you live your life when you're not intentionally planning for it to happen, when you're just kind of like saying, if it happens, it happens. Like, you're not taking any steps towards it. So I'm going to keep reading and you get it even more. Don't worry, I'm not suggesting that if you just try to be a better Christian, God will reward you with a husband. I love that she calls that out. These are Candice Waters' words, by the way. People sometimes say, when I just took my mind off it, I focused on the Lord, I got married. I'm like, bro, there are people who are not as serious Christians that are getting married. It's not like marriage is a reward for just good Christians or anything like that. It's more that the same way you take being a Christian seriously, you can also take steps that help you be in a mindset that helps you meet people, or at least helps you to be welcoming to the idea of meeting people. Again, more of this. I'm going to skip a bit because I kind of explained it earlier. Living like you're planning to marry means intentionally, guys, listen carefully to this one. Intentionally resisting the cultural traps of male bashing, procrastination, unrealistic expectations, hyper independence, and avoiding risk, and instead cultivating community, stewardship, and purity, the elements of Christian discipleship that can best help you recognize and embrace good opportunities for marriage. I just want to backtrack a little bit because there was so much in there. We live in a culture where, for some reason, bad news spreads so fast, much faster than the good news sometimes, and it can feel like all around you there's so many examples of like men acting up, but there's so many great men as well. Godly men, kind men, thoughtful men who are honorable, men who are worthy of emulation, worthy of looking up to as role models, worthy of being the fathers of your children in the future. They're really great men, but I find that men has come is the narrative of the day, and we have to intentionally refuse to say it, even when you're seeing it, right? Choose to say what you want to have instead of what you're seeing. And this is the principle that applies everywhere, not just in the area of marriage. I've just been all around seeing the power of words of late. Don't just refuse to be part of the group of people saying men are scum. Even the idea of Where are the men? There are no men. Refuse it. There are men. First of all, you need only one, so you need just one man. But like, I know that there are issues with in the church. There's like more women than men serving, and that has lots to do with our modes of doing church, in the sense that like there's a lot that fits women's emotional needs with the way we do church. Social, like a social gathering, the emotional expressions that kind of maybe caters to the feminine side a bit more. And I know there's some cases where it feels like men are a bit more distant from the faith. But I found that it's not necessarily that there are more women who are serving God wholeheartedly than men. I find that more women have the appearance of holiness than men. Because I've been seeing some things very lately, like just of the past few months, where even on YouTube, where like some people are like there talking about promise. I'm not like bashing. I'm just highlighting that they were talking about where are the men, but then the things they were highlighting as what they wanted. I'm like, this are not the fruit of godly women. Like, you might feel like you're ready and like you are in a place where you want a godly man, but you don't sound like a godly woman in the things you're desiring. Because the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I don't want to go into it as detailed as possible, but I'm just saying there are great men and there are great women. Focus on cultivating yourself, asking God to reveal yourself to you. Like, what are the parts of yourself that you need to improve on, that you need to continue working on? Not that you're trying to attain perfection, which we are all trying to attain perfection, but like focus on the parts that you can change, which is you, and then focus on what it will have you do. God, do I need to ask for my eyes to be open so I see the men around me that I somehow have not seen me? Do I need to ask for their eyes to be open so that they see me and like they can observe that I'm not just their sister, I'm a potential wife, or do I need to move, to a different place? Do I need to be more outgoing? What would you have me do? Like, focus on what you can control, which is yourself. I'm totally segueing right now, but obviously you can tell that the passion just came out over there. So resist the cultural traps of male bashing, procrastinating. Many of us are prolonging singleness more than we want to. Sometimes I see threads on the internet. It's mostly Twitter about how, what's the point of, why would you ever marry in your 20s? What have you seen in life? And then people will also be fighting the idea that like you have so many more options in your 20s because there are more of you that are single, more men that are single, more women that are single, more good options. It makes sense for you to open your eyes while there is daylight and you can see why there are options. Nobody's a leftover. At any age, God can send you a bone of your bone, but why do you have to make it harder on yourself to meet people? Like, if you have the chance in your youth, in your school days, in your 20s, to mature emotionally, to mature financially, to mature spiritually, so that your chances are better, why don't you do it? Is all that this is trying to say. So I'm going to read that sentence again, and then you can pick what you want from there. Living like you're planning to marry means intentionally resisting the cultural traps of male bashing, procrastinating, unrealistic expectations. I'm always talking about height and money and all these things on this channel. You should watch some of my past episodes, maybe like the one I had with Kome. It's a really good one. Or listen to it if you're on a podcast platform as well. Just a great conversation to just understand that sometimes we have unrealistic expectations, and the things you need to prioritize are the things that actually help you build a good home, not whatever is just aesthetic vibes, whatever looks good on the gram. Let's be serious with ourselves. So resist procrastination, unrealistic expectations, hyper independence. Oh, I'm an independent woman. I kind of am too. I'm also entering my I would rather just be pampered stage, and I feel like God did not build us to be islands. I know that God built us to need each other and to rely on each other. So like, don't also build a wall of hyper independence out of pain, because that's a real thing where like, because you've been hurt, you just want to like, I can provide it myself. My own father left. I don't want to need any man. I don't want to depend on any man. Don't build a principle for your life out of your pain. Heal from pain, okay? So much to say there. Don't avoid risk in all of life. You can't completely avoid risk. Binding your life with someone else is a risk in some ways. So like, that is also to just be known that this is a risk, and it's something that you you take a calculated leap of faith. You don't just say, oh, any man, okay, I'll take the risk and join. You observe, you bring them to the elders of the church, elders of your home, which is what it says in the next step, cultivating community. You're not an island. No matter how wise you are as a person, you need a Christian community for life, not just for marriage, for life. When life is life, and for them to pray for you. When life is good, for them to celebrate with you, and celebrate with you without being jealous of you. Sometimes I hear that, oh, friends are pulling each other down. They don't want to do well. Are you really Christians? Like, who doesn't want their friends to do well? So spend your time cultivating Christian community and purity and the elements of Christian discipleships that can best help you recognize and embrace good opportunities for marriage. This sentence is essentially where the bulk of the message is, and the same things that make it easy for you to recognize a good person also make it likely that you're surrounded by good people. If you are in an atmosphere where you are cultivating good Christian community, the odds are that the other young men like that are also cultivating good Christian community that you can partner with. If you're in the headspace where you're not bashing men, you can see them as brothers. You can pray for them. I'm not telling you to take a project on, or don't take on a project that you have to be fixing for the rest of your life or praying for the rest of your life. But you should always be praying for your brothers and sisters in Christ, for God to help them, for God to help you. And it just builds a level of empathy in you for what people are going through. And you don't just see them as, this person is a problem case or something, or like you just feel for them more, and you treat them like the true brothers and sisters that we are. I spent so much more time than I expected to spend on that, and I don't know how long this is going to go for, but let's just keep going and see where it goes. All right, so that was Live Like You're Planning to Marry. Now the next one is, why the wait? Okay, we talked about procrastination earlier, and this one is really that, like, it's okay to be single. There are a lot of good things to enjoy in your singleness. But if you want to marry, right, and you know that there's a season where there are more single people that are ready to marry, would you consider not prioritizing marriage and family at the bottom of your list? Education is good, wonderful. I have a master's as well. Wealth is good. I plan to be quite extremely rich. Oprah's money will be joking near my own, based on my plans for my life. And I pray that God will help them to come to pass. Money is good, but they're not necessarily better than love and companionship. And they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. You can gain wealth and gain a family. You can gain an education and gain a family. You can gain health and peace of mind and gain a family. It is not like you have to do one before the other. So one of the things that having a Christian community can help you do is to have conversations about these things, so that you can dig deeper into your reasons. Why do I believe I need to wait till I'm in my 30s? Why do I feel like I need to be 25, even in some cases? I do think you should be a bit mature. I think that teenagehood allows you to feel like you're more mature than you are. I think it's a good thing that women are getting educated, because it means we're more empowered to make good decisions. We're less gullible. Yes, I'm a feminist light, I like to say, because I say feminist to the extent where I feel like it contradicts my faith, and I just let my faith go over it. But let me focus. We're talking today about why the wait. So I'm going to keep reading. The first one was an article by Candice Waters in boundless.org. Okay. The first one was an article by Candice Waters called Live Like You're Planning to Marry, in the pamphlet by boundless.org called A Girl's Guide to Marrying Well. This one is called Why the Wait, and it's also by Candice Waters. I love Candice. I love how she thinks. I have found her. I just like her advice. You know how there's many gurus, and like Fikaya told us in one of the previous episodes, find your guru and stick with them. She's one of my gurus. Okay. So, why the wait? The problem of delayed marriage has a lot to do with men who won't take initiative. So yes, we're not bashing them, but we can at least acknowledge there's a problem. Okay. Women want to be pursued, and men are charged by God to be the pursuers. hang on, guys. Don't let me lose you yet. In Proverbs 18:22, the Bible says, "He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord." So the key word there is finds, and it's an action word. It's an active verb. It instructs the man who wants God's blessings to get out there and look. I was preparing for this conversation earlier today, so I went to ask my husband, babe, what do you think about this Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife verse? I mean, I've known this verse for a while, but this time where this pamphlet emphasizes that it's the man who finds the wife. I'm like, does this mean a woman shouldn't make the move or shouldn't, like, do anything? And he's like, actually, I think my exact words were, does this mean a woman shouldn't pursue the man? He's like, well, nobody asked the woman to pursue, but that doesn't mean you cannot make yourself available. And like, he gave some really good examples, like, okay, Ruth, I would say Ruth in the Bible did a lot to make herself available, and it was upon the advice of wise counsel, like, babe, go and serve in a place where an eligible man is available. Like, the ball is still in his court to see you and make the move, but you can help yourself. When I was single, one of the things was I was wearing this ring, like a purity ring. I don't even know why I bought it. I liked it. It had this little like hand holding a heart. So I bought it. It was my first expensive piece of jewelry. And I think my ears weren't even pierced at the time, so it was very exciting to like have jewelry. So I bought it and I used to wear it all the time. I think I even wore it on my left hand, like the wedding hand. So my dad was like, "Fopsy," and said this in Yoruba. Talk on body ring lower by put any lati boya or engage or anything like that. My Yoruba is very wonky these days, but essentially, the man sees the ring on your finger. He won't even wonder, like, he won't necessarily be here trying to fight, like, are you engaged or anything? Like, why are you making it difficult? Are you seeing anybody? Are you engaged? I'm like, no. So why are you wearing ring? And it's kind of funny because, African parents do love to help you remember that you're single. But he had a point. Like, why was I wearing a ring and making it difficult? Let it be clear, glaring that I'm single. Not in a desperate fashion, but like, don't make it difficult. If you don't go out a lot, if you work from home, bro, maybe take a drive out after work, go to the mall, go see a movie, because the odds are higher that somebody will see you while you're out and when you're inside. Maybe go to church instead of watching church online. If you're single, go in person and have conversations. There's a part for you to play as well to make yourself available. And I have a whole lot of practical things you can do in my book, Situationship, How to Stop Breaking Your Own Heart. There's a chapter I wrote about, how to find date-worthy people, and another one I wrote about just things you can actually do to increase your odds of getting found and things like that. All in all, it's God that shows mercy and causes time and chance to work for you in the end, yes. But at least do something, do your own part, look good. I don't like to necessarily dress up. I know it might seem difficult to believe because look at me getting made up for videos all the time, but if you go back, you can actually scroll to my YouTube, see the early days. Things were not looking very great. But for real, I decided to try harder because my parents, in fact, I don't know, they were like, buy me new clothes. Like, if I stop wearing the same clothes over and over again. I wasn't broke. I just did not necessarily fancy fashion or anything like that. And I'm still kind of the same way today. Like, all that to say, help yourself. Yes, but when it comes to the actual pursuit, I still believe it's the man's role. So do your part to be more visible, do your part to be found. But all in all, let the man do the finding. Okay. And to the men we say, get going. It's time you accept the challenge to pursue marriage. And to the women we say, stop glorifying the single years as a super holy season of just you and Jesus. I feel like the authors of this are white. And, sometimes it's the difference between the culture we have in different parts of the world and different races, essentially. A lot of Christian white girls do this it's my season, I'm married to Jesus. Same as that purity ring thing I was doing. Probably was influenced by what I was reading or something. There's a season where people like to really talk about how they are just it's just them and Jesus. Like, they're married to Jesus. Yes. being single does provide the chance to be uniquely intimate with Jesus. And that's something the Bible affirms. It tells you that if you don't need to marry, don't marry, because you can serve God so much more when you're single, unattached, unencumbered by the realities of having to cater to someone else, whether by listening to them, cheering them on. If you have kids, taking care of them consumes a lot of time. Yes, you have more time to be intimate with Jesus when you're single, and you should enjoy that. But don't overemphasize that, especially if you want to get married. If you feel called to the work of God, then ride on and keep on like focusing on that. But if you know that you are not called to celibacy your whole life, you're not called to singleness, you desire companionship, you desire family, make sure that you're not overemphasizing, oh, it's just Jesus and me. And why is that? Because it gives guys permission to kick back and let you enjoy singleness, essentially. If you think you're perfectly happy as a single person, why wouldn't they let you stay that way? We're always saying to guys, at least I know I say, so like, if you cannot add value to anybody's life, leave them alone. So if somebody looks perfectly happy and like somebody is always talking about, oh, I'm single, I'm happy, I'm single, I'm very happy with it, I'm married to Jesus at this time, guys have to take a lot of risk to talk to you and gain your attention. So if you already feel like a high risk prospect, that probably reduces the chances of them talking to you. So especially when so many of the guys seem so shy, thanks to that 50% give or take divorce rate and absentee dad problem, many of the guys grew up without a mentor, their dad, and without a godly model for what marriage should look like. So this problem is multifaceted. When you haven't had godly manhood modeled to you, it's hard to know where to start from. You're starting at a deficit, and maybe we should also cut them some slack, because there's a lot of men who have not had godly models in their lives. But you know what? Women too. A lot of women have had these problems, but I think even more so men. Many of them are scared, and for good reason. So this is why I say sometimes God might put it on your heart to start praying for men, that godly older men would rise up and mentor them, that people would feel burdened to invite them into their homes, show them what marriages could look like, godly, happy marriages could look like. People would take them under their wings and teach them how to love a woman. Everything can be learned, but it just requires help. Maybe God can inspire them to pick up books to read, can inspire people to host seminars. There's so many ways that your prayers can help. So if you feel a burden for the men of our generation, definitely pray about it. I hope you guys can hear me clearly, because at the end of the day, I think my energy is tanking, but the passion is still there. Just that my voice can definitely just not go higher than this. Sorry about that. Okay, so all that is not an excuse to bash men. Women have an important ability to help them move towards marriage. And how? By esteeming it. So by esteeming marriage, by not being embarrassed about wanting it, by going after it to a point, you can nurture men towards marriage by helping them see that it contains a lot of what they are looking for, even if they don't know it yet. I don't know if this is going to be talked about later, but one of the reasons I think marriage is also declining is that some of the advantages of marriage are being experienced outside of marriage. We are being too intimate with men, with our feelings, with our emotions, with our nurturing them and catering to them. There's a level of intimacy that you should just leave for a greater amount of commitment. Not to talk about sex, even like all these things are being experienced outside of marriage. So why are we surprised that people are prolonging singleness? So getting all the benefits without the commitment of it is another thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess it did cover it. Marriage holds the possibility of partnership, adventure, creativity, challenge, and many more of the things we long for, but try to obtain with inferior pursuits. So many of us are looking to find ourselves in adventure and travel. And I mean, it's a good thing to do these things as well, but some of them can be found in marriage too. I'm not saying everybody needs to go and marry without counting the cost. Definitely count the cost, but marriage is fun. Yeah, it is fun. Amy and Leon Cass Observed in their roles as professors at the University of Chicago, we detect among our students certain, albeit sometimes unarticulated, longings for friendship, for wholeness, for a life that is serious and deep, and for associations that are trustworthy and lasting. Longings that they do not realize can be largely satisfied by marrying well, and that's from wing to wing, oar to oar. Wow, that's very interesting. And that's true. In university, all of us, even all of us young folks, are looking for deep friendships, to find ourselves, for wholeness, for serious things and meaning, to go beyond the surface. And some of that is buried and nested within the confines of marriage. Not saying that's the only way to enjoy it, but maybe what you're looking for is what you're also avoiding. It's essentially what that is. So that was Why the Wait, and I hope you feel challenged to not underestimate the love and wonder of marriage. It's something beautiful to experience. And if you want to keep reading this pamphlet, the link is in the description. You can download it. It's free, and it's brought to you by boundless.org. My name is Fopsy, and keep listening. Watch the next video called Are You Ready to Date? We're just continuing the conversation.